The Forgotten World captain Zara Voss adjusted her breathing apparatus as her ship descended through the toxic atmosphere of the dead world. The planet had no official designation, only coordinates that marked it as forbidden territory in the outer rim of the Milky Way. For 3 centuries, the Galactic Preservation Council had marked this entire sector as a hazardous zone, warning all civilizations to avoid the area. But Zara was not one to follow rules when ancient mysteries called to her. Her exploration vessel, the Seeker's Dawn, touched down on the barren surface with barely a whisper. The world was eerily silent, its surface scarred by what appeared to be massive craters and strange geometric patterns that stretched for thousands of kilometers. As a member of the Krillian Exploration Guild, Zara had seen dead worlds before, but this one felt different. There was something deliberate about the destruction, as if the planet had been carefully dismantled rather than destroyed by natural disaster or war. Dr. Marcus Chen, her human colleague and the expedition's xenoarchaeologist, emerged from the ship's laboratory section. Despite being one of the few humans working within galactic society, Marcus had always been fascinated by the legends of his people's mysterious disappearance. Most galactic historians believed humans had simply died out naturally, unable to adapt to the harsh realities of space exploration. But Marcus had always suspected there was more to the story. The 2 explorers made their way across the wasteland, their scanners detecting faint energy signatures beneath the surface. What they found would shake the very foundations of galactic history. Buried deep beneath layers of crystallized sand and metal debris were the unmistakable remains of a massive civilization. Not alien architecture, but something that made Marcus's heart race with recognition. These were human structures, but unlike anything from the historical records, the technology was far beyond what humans were supposed to have achieved before their supposed extinction. Crystalline towers that seemed to bend light around them, transport networks that showed evidence of dimensional manipulation, and most disturbing of all, massive launch platforms that suggested a coordinated exodus on an unimaginable scale. Zara contacted High Archon Deshan of the Galactic Preservation Council, transmitting their findings through encrypted channels. The response was immediate and troubling. The High Archon's holographic image materialized in their temporary camp, his usually calm demeanor replaced by obvious distress. "Captain Voss, you and your team must evacuate that world immediately," Deshan commanded, his forearms gesturing frantically. That sector was forbidden for good reason. The humans who once lived there were not the primitive species we believed them to be. But Marcus stepped forward, his voice filled with determination. "High Archon, with respect, I am human. If my people built this, I have a right to know what happened here. These ruins show technology that surpasses even the most advanced civilizations in the current galactic community." "How is that possible?" Desian's expression grew grave. "Because, Dr. Chen, your people did not die out. They left. And the reason we forbade anyone from entering this sector was to ensure they would never find their way back." The revelation hit both explorers like a physical blow. For centuries, the galactic community had maintained that humans were an extinct species, one of many casualties of the harsh realities of space exploration. Entire academic careers had been built on studying the failed human experiment, but now they were learning it had all been a lie. As they processed this information, their equipment began detecting something else. Deep space sensors picked up a signal originating from the planet's core, something that had been dormant for 500,000 years but was now awakening. The signal was complex, layered with mathematical sequences and harmonic frequencies that suggested advanced artificial intelligence. Marcus worked frantically to decode the transmission, his expertise in ancient human languages proving invaluable. What he discovered changed everything. The signal was not just a message, but an activation sequence, one that was being broadcast across the entire galaxy on frequencies that most civilizations had never even discovered, far beyond the rim of known space. In the cold darkness between galaxies, something responded to the call. Ancient vessels that had been drifting in perfect hibernation for longer than most species had existed began to stir. Their quantum cores, powered by the background radiation of the universe itself, hummed back to life after eons of silence. Commander Elena Rodriguez opened her eyes for the first time in 500,000 years. Her consciousness, preserved in quantum matrix storage, flooded back into her reconstructed body as the hibernation systems of the starship. New Horizon gradually brought her back to awareness. Around her, thousands of similar vessels were undergoing the same process, each one carrying the preserved essence of humanity's greatest survivors. The fleet that began to move through the void was unlike anything the current galaxy had ever seen. These were not the crude metal ships that galactic records attributed to ancient humanity. These vessels seemed to flow like liquid metal, their hulls shifting and adapting to the conditions around them. They moved through space-time itself, rather than simply traveling through it, covering distances that should have been impossible in mere moments. Back on the dead world, Zara and Marcus watched in amazement as their scanners detected the approaching fleet. The ships appeared on their sensors like ghosts, phasing in and out of normal space-time as they approached the galactic rim. The technology was so advanced that their instruments could barely track the vessel's movements. High Archon, this Emergency Council convened on Nexus Prime, the seat of galactic government. Representatives from thousands of civilizations gathered in the Great Assembly Hall, their usual political debates forgotten in the face of this unprecedented crisis. The humans were returning, and they were far more advanced than anyone had imagined possible. The first human vessel to enter Council space was a sleek destroyer that materialized directly above Nexus Prime without triggering any of the planet's defensive systems. It simply appeared as if it had always been there. The message that followed was broadcast simultaneously to every inhabited world in the galaxy, delivered in thousands of languages with perfect translation. People of the galaxy, we are the children of Earth, and we have returned. For 500,000 years, we have watched from the darkness, evolving, learning, and preparing. You believed us extinct because we chose to let you believe it. The time for hiding is over. The voice belonged to Admiral Sarah Kane, Supreme Commander of the Human Exodus Fleet. Her image appeared on every screen across the galaxy, showing a woman who appeared young but whose eyes held the weight of geological ages. Behind her, the bridge of her flagship revealed technology that seemed to blur the line between science and magic. As panic spread through the galactic community, Marcus Chen stood on the surface of humanity's abandoned homeworld, tears streaming down his face. His people had not died out or failed. They had been playing a game so complex and long-term that no other species had even realized it was happening. The humans had left the galaxy not in defeat, but as part of a plan that spanned 500,000 years. The dead world beneath his feet began to change. Ancient systems, activated by the returning fleet's signals, started to rebuild what had been destroyed. The crystalline towers rose from the ground like living things, and the transport networks began to glow with renewed energy. Earth was being reborn, and with it, humanity's true place in the galaxy was about to be revealed. Zara looked at her human companion with a mixture of awe and fear. "Marcus, what have your people become?" He turned to her, his expression filled with wonder and uncertainty. "I don't know, Zara, but I have a feeling we're about to find out." The first phase of humanity's return was complete. The galaxy that had forgotten Earth ever existed was about to learn that forgetting and being forgotten were two very different things. And somewhere in the vast fleet approaching from beyond the stars, ancient minds that had spent 500,000 years preparing for this moment were ready to show the universe what humanity had truly become. The return of Earth's children, the great assembly hall of Nexus Prime, had never hosted such a tense gathering. Representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy sat in stunned silence as Admiral Sarah Kane's holographic image materialized. At the center of the chamber, she appeared solid, real, despite being transmitted from a flagship that existed somewhere between dimensions. Her presence filled the room with an energy that made even the most powerful alien leaders feel small. Ambassador Jorik of the Alterian Federation was the first to find his voice. His species had been instrumental in establishing the current galactic order, and the thought of its disruption terrified him. "Admiral Kane, if that is indeed your title, the Galactic Preservation Council demands to know your intentions. Your sudden appearance has caused panic across thousands of worlds." Sarah's expression remained calm, but there was something in her eyes that spoke of experiences beyond normal comprehension. "Ambassador, your council has spent centuries believing that humanity was extinct. You built your entire galactic civilization on the assumption that we were a failed species, a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition. But you were wrong about everything." "Hi, Archon." Decion stepped forward, his forearms spread in a gesture of authority. "The records are clear. Humanity attempted to resist the natural order of galactic integration. When your species refused to accept the limitations placed on primitive worlds, the consequences were inevitable. Your home world was destroyed in the conflicts that followed." Sarah's laugh was soft, but carried an edge that made several representatives step backward. "Destroyed? No. Archon Earth was evacuated. Every human, every animal, every genetic sample of life from our world was carefully preserved and transported beyond your reach. What you destroyed was an empty shell, a stage set we left behind to convince you that humanity was no more." The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. Captain Chenwei, one of the few humans who had remained in galactic society during the long exile, watched from the observation deck with amazement. His ancestors had spoken in whispers about the great departure, but he had never imagined the scope of what his people had accomplished. Sarah continued, her voice carrying across the chamber with perfect clarity. "For 500,000 years, we have existed in the spaces between galaxies, in dimensions your science cannot yet perceive. We used that time not just to survive, but to evolve, to become something greater than what we were when we left." She gestured, and the holographic projectors throughout the chamber activated, showing images that defied understanding. Vast cities that existed in folded space-time, forests that grew in zero gravity, oceans that flowed through multiple dimensions. Simultaneously, this was not the primitive technology that galactic records attributed to ancient humanity. This was something that transcended the normal laws of physics. Dr. Marcus Chen, still on the surface of the reborn Earth, watched the proceedings through his communication link while ancient human technology rebuilt the world around him. The crystalline towers were growing taller by the hour, and strange, beautiful machines were emerging from underground complexes that had waited 500,000 years to return to life. The collective mind, the artificial intelligence that had preserved human consciousness during the Great Exodus, spoke through Sarah's voice, its words carrying the weight of accumulated eons. We learned from our time in exile that survival was not enough. Evolution, true evolution, requires isolation from the limiting beliefs of others. You saw us as primitive because you could not imagine what we might become. Ambassador Jorik's species was known for their logical approach to problems, but logic seemed inadequate to process what they were witnessing. If your capabilities are as advanced as you claim, why return at all? Why reveal yourselves now? Sarah's expression softened slightly, revealing a glimpse of the human emotions that still existed beneath the vast intelligence she had become. Because, Ambassador, evolution without purpose is meaningless. We left the galaxy as refugees, as a species driven out by those who feared our potential. We return as teachers, ready to share what we have learned with those who are ready to grow beyond their current limitations. The chamber erupted in heated discussion as representatives debated among themselves. Some called for immediate military action, fearing that humanity's return threatened the established order. Others argued for diplomatic engagement, recognizing that a species capable of existing undetected for 500,000 years could not be opposed through conventional means. High Archon Decion called for order, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. Admiral Kane, the Galactic Preservation Council cannot simply accept your return without guarantees. How do we know your intentions are peaceful? How do we know you won't seek revenge for the conflicts of the past? Sarah turned her attention to the Archon, and for a moment her eyes seemed to hold the depth of space itself. Revenge, Archon, against whom? The civilizations that exist today are not the same ones that drove us from our home. You are their descendants, shaped by 500,000 years of history that we influenced from the shadows. We do not seek revenge because we have already achieved something far more valuable than vengeance. She paused, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. We have achieved understanding. We know why the conflicts happened, why fear drove your ancestors to see us as a threat rather than as partners. That understanding has taught us patience, and patience has taught us wisdom. Captain Chenwei received clearance to address the assembly, his voice carrying the unique perspective of someone who had lived between both worlds. I have spent my life studying the legends of my people's departure. What I am seeing now surpasses even our most optimistic historical theories. But Admiral Kane speaks the truth about wisdom. The humans returning to us are not the same species that left. They have become something that transcends our old categories of understanding. The collective mind spoke again through Sarah, its voice now carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate with the quantum structure of the chamber itself. We offer you a choice, people of the galaxy. You can continue as you have, bound by the limitations you have accepted as natural law. Or you can join us in exploring what lies beyond those limitations. We will not force evolution upon you, but neither will we hide our capabilities any longer. As if to demonstrate their point, the human fleet began to phase into normal space. Around Nexus Prime, thousands of vessels materialized simultaneously, their presence causing no disruption to the planet's systems despite their massive size. Each ship was a work of art as much as a feat of engineering, their hulls flowing like liquid metal, while energy patterns danced across their surfaces in displays of controlled power. Dr. Marcus Chen watched from Earth's surface as similar fleets appeared throughout the galaxy, each one positioning itself near a major civilization but making no aggressive moves. The message was clear. Humanity had the capability to appear anywhere, anytime, but chose to announce their presence rather than simply take what they wanted. The transformation of Earth itself continued around him. Oceans were returning to empty. Basins, their waters drawn from dimensional storage that had preserved them across the eons. Forests began to grow at accelerated rates, their genetic patterns restored to perfection by technology that treated DNA like programmable code. The sky, which had been grey and lifeless for millennia, began to show patches of blue, as atmospheric processes worked to restore the planet's original environment. Back in the assembly chamber, Admiral Sarah Kane made her final offer. We propose the formation of a new galactic alliance, one based not on the preservation of current limitations, but on the exploration of infinite possibilities. Those civilizations that choose to join us will have access to technologies and perspectives that will revolutionize their existence. Those that prefer to maintain their current path will be respected and protected, but they will not be required to change. Ambassador Jorik found himself speaking words he had never expected to say. And if we choose to join this alliance, what would be expected of us? Sarah's smile was warm, carrying echoes of the humanity that had once lived on the world, now being reborn beneath Marcus's feet. Only that you be willing to grow, to question the assumptions that have defined your limitations, to explore what you might become if you stopped accepting that your current form is all you can ever be. The debate that followed would last for days, but the outcome was never really in doubt. Faced with evidence of what was possible when a species refused to accept limitations, most of the galactic community chose to embrace the unknown rather than cling to the familiar. Not all civilizations made this choice, and humanity respected their decision, establishing protected zones where traditional galactic society could continue unchanged. For those who chose to join the new alliance, the transformation began immediately. Human teachers, beings who had spent 500,000 years learning to transcend physical and mental limitations, worked with alien scientists to develop technologies that had previously been considered impossible. Worlds that had been scarred by war were healed using principles that treated matter and energy as interchangeable tools. Species that had believed they were bound by their biological forms learned to adapt and evolve in ways they had never imagined. Marcus Chen stood on the shores of Earth's first new ocean, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that had not been seen from this world for 500,000 years. Humanity had not simply returned home. They had brought the galaxy with them into a new age of possibility. The stars above looked different now, not because they had changed, but because the eyes that observed them had learned to see beyond the old limitations. Earth was alive again, but more importantly, the galaxy itself had been reborn as something greater than the sum of its parts. The children of Earth had indeed returned, and with them they had brought the future.